Is this thing on?
Okay. It's probably not going to work, but I have a loud voice, so I'll just speak loudly. So, also, can we fix this in post? I meant to wear a suit today. I just wanted to know if we can fix that. So I know that they said it wasn't competitive or serious, and that it's humorous speech, but I think the very serious topic that should be given the same due consideration of this, that all the other speeches receive. So I just want you to keep that in mind. And although I'm not competing for anything, it is a very competitive speech, and I want you to judge it accordingly. So, my fellow students, guests, alumni, and special delegation from the Crab Nebula, welcome. Today, I would like to bring attention to a serious issue that you and I are not taking seriously. Yes, the issue I'd like to share with you today is the continuing occupation of the South by red imported fire ants, known simply as just fire ants, which is hardly a new issue considering they've been here since the 30s, but still one that persistently causes economic woes, death, and heavy applications of hydrocortisone cream. Now, in terms of other problems fire ants cause, the most serious is the threat they pose to biodiversity. According to the Queensland Department of Agriculture, which is in Australia, but it's still kind of relevant, fire ants go full Jeffrey Dahmer on pretty much everything that lives on the ground, including, but not limited to, lizards, other insects, tree bark, seeds, fruit, leaves, nectar, and vertebrates carrion and you. The U.S. Congressional Office of Technology Assessment says this loss of biodiversity means that the environment will lose a lot of the species that make it sustainable. Often the species that the fire ants slaughter are integral in keeping nutrients in the soil that make our agriculture possible. Fire ants also have an affinity for electricity and will eat through cable insulation on power lines and will congregate on metal conductors, which can cause them to short circuit. Doing this also kills the ants. So imagine having such a reckless disregard for your own life that you sacrifice yourself to cause a minor inconvenience. It's that sort of nihilistic dedication to chaos that makes ants such a dangerous foe. The Food and Drug Administration estimates that more than $5 billion is spent every year on medical treatment, damage, and control in areas that are infested. And in addition, the ants are estimated to cause around $750 million worth of damage to agricultural assets, which includes livestock loss and crop loss. That's a whole lot of money that can be spent on tax breaks for Duke Energy or Yale studies on duck penises. Also, a ton of people are stung by them every year, around 20 to 60% of people who live in infested areas. So now that we are aware of the economic and ecological danger of fire ants, you might be wondering what we can do about them, or whether you should save one bullet for yourself. Avoiding the ants is not an option. If you have an exposed food source, fire ants will find it worth their while to make excursions into your home. Keep in mind that the fire ant's definition of food source will include things such as spilled Kool-Aid or vomit. So what can we do against this red menace? Scientists who probably get stung a lot, some of them here at NC State, are working to annihilate them for good, but that'll take time. And we need to take immediate action to avoid being overrun. What we can do is an activity that most children will do out of their own volition, namely exterminating ants on your property, or as wide of an area as you have the time and bloodthirst for. So how do you find and kill fire ants? Well, the first thing you have to do is locate the nest, which looks exactly like most anthills do. You should use a stick or poking apparatus that isn't your finger to upset the nest and make sure that it's indeed a fire ant nest. Other species of ants are better off left alone. Their lives are hard enough merely existing in the same habitat as fire ants and by just being ants. If you've ever tried to kill a nest of fire ants by pouring water in the nest, then you've been outsmarted. Fire ants are able to avoid dying to floods by forming a ball made up of their own bodies which floats. Now you can use chemicals and all that stuff to kill them, but in the end of in the interest of eco-friendly extermination, I'll give a few alternatives suggested by the NCSU Entomology Department. Boiling water kills most things you immerse in it, and ants are really no different. Pouring about a kettle of boiling water on an ant nest will transform the once thriving hive into a chitinous sludge. The second way to sign the ant's death warrant involves mixing citrus oil, some Dawn liquid soap, and simple water. Basically, a compound in the citrus oil causes the ant's exoskeletons to break down, and the liquid soap reduces the surface tension of the water so the ants can't stay above it using their Voltron technique. This method is more effective than using boiling water, but is somehow less satisfying. The final way to destroy the ants is a result of an experiment conducted by scientists from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it involves introducing phorid flies to the fire ant's habitat. Phorid flies inject their larvae into the fire ant's thorax, and the larva eventually travels to the ant's head where it devours the brain. Once the larva is ready to emerge, it compels the ant to leave the hive, and it eats away at the tissue connecting the ant's head to its thorax until the ant is decapitated and the cycle of life continues. These flies are a natural parasitoid of fire ants and do not infest invasive species, do not infest native ant species. Unfortunately, these flies are not commercially available, I looked it up, but have already been introduced and are expected to spread rapidly. My personal vote goes for using boiling water because it's effective if you use enough of it, offers decent entertainment value, and can help bring your community together when they collectively ask what the hell you're doing. In summation, fire ants are a highly invasive species that cause immense ecological and economic damage to any habitat they invade. They also sting people. Steps are being taken against them that will result in their eventual obliteration, but you too can contribute in a small and almost therapeutic way by declaring exterminatus on all fire ant colonies on your property or within easy reach of your lawn chair. Our goal is merely to hold off the Red Army until the brain-eating flies arrive. With that in mind, best of luck and revel in knowing that the calamity you bring upon the fire ants will someday lead to a world where picnics and barefoot strolls can be enjoyed in peace. Thank you for your time.